Hi, this is Alex Dimitrov, and today I will inform you about the greatest sporting achievement in my country's history, Bulgaria's 1994 soccer team. This is a team that some would say defied all expectations and went to the semi-final of the World Cup while being huge underdogs. Everybody was counting them out, even some Bulgarians who hadn't seen a World Cup in their lifetime. Since Bulgaria is a small country with only around 7 million people, and one well-known soccer star at the time, who was Hristos Stoichkov, they were not really expected to go far and compete with the great soccer countries in the tournament, like Germany, France, Argentina, and Brazil and Italy. I will tell you about how they qualified for the tournament, also their shock defeat over one of the best soccer countries and powerhouses in the world, and the results of this inspiring run and how it impacted the country as a whole. First, I must talk about the World Cup qualifiers, where it all began. Bulgaria, coming into the qualifiers the year before the World Cup, was ranked 30th in the world by FIFA. Many experts had them missing the World Cup altogether because they were in a tough group with France and Sweden, and only the top two countries qualify for the World Cup. So many experts had them narrowly missing the cut. And this is where Bulgaria gave the world its first look at the many shocking victories to come. On the final day of qualifiers, Bulgaria had a match with France in France, and the two countries were in a 1-1 draw going into halftime. If the result and the match ended like this, then Bulgaria would miss the World Cup and France would qualify. The French were customary to always making the World Cup every time. This was a routine achievement for them. Then, in the final seconds, while the score was still 1-1, the two countries tied, a ball fell to the Bulgarian forward Kostadinov, and he shot a prayer, almost a miraculous shot towards the goal. This would most likely be Bulgaria's last chance. Somehow, some would say by the grace of God, the ball went in the back of the net and Bulgaria were heading to the World Cup instead of France. Reporters were calling it unreal and a miracle. Paul Webster, a sports writer for The Guardian, wrote his headline as "Anger in the Parc des Princes," as late Bulgaria goal robs French of ticket to the US World Cup. Next, as the World Cup started, no one thought Bulgaria would make a deep run in the tournament, not even most Bulgarians. The Bulgarian people were accustomed to their team letting them down in the biggest matches, and they had a history of doing this before this 1994 World Cup. Experts thought that this was where their luck would run out in the group stage, and that they would not qualify any further. Although a 2-0 win over Argentina would send them to the playoff stage, or the knockout stage of the World Cup. A win in penalties over Mexico then sent them to the quarterfinals. Now this is where it gets interesting. Ahead of them stood the toughest challenge of them all. Bulgaria would have to beat Germany for a spot in the semifinal. No one was giving Bulgaria any chance. Experts would say that they would need a miracle to get past the German team, which was like a well-oiled machine. Back in the 90s, they were called Die Mannschaft for their well-oiled and fluid play, which translates to the machine in English. Germany were the reigning world champions, meaning they had won the last World Cup and had multiple soccer legends on their team, including Jürgen Klinsmann. They were ranked first in the world by FIFA at the time and had arguably the best team in the tournament. When the game started, Germany scored first and Bulgarians thought that this was the end. Suddenly, 2 quick goals after the 70-minute mark, one by Hristo Stoichkov, Bulgaria's captain, had Germany on the back foot. When the final whistle blew, nobody believed what had just happened. Bulgaria had eliminated the world champions Germany. Even the Bulgarian players were in shock. In a news article written in 1994, Bill Plaschke of the LA Times talks about his post-match interview with Hristo Stoichkov after the shock defeat, where the Bulgarian quoted the most famous line of his career, saying, "God was a Bulgarian today." Very iconic line. Eventually, Bulgaria ended up losing the semifinal in a nail-biter 2-1 defeat to Italy. When the players returned to Bulgaria, many people applauded them for their achievements, and they were very proud of them because they gave the Bulgarian people a sense of national pride and something to be proud of. There was a ceremony thrown in the national stadium Vasil Levski for their performance. In his online journal from 2012, My Golden Great, Hristo Stoichkov, reporter Joel Campbell goes more into depth about the repercussions of the World Cup run, how Bulgarians were very proud of their players, and how this all led to Hristo Stoichkov becoming the first and only Bulgarian to this day to win the Ballon d'Or, which is essentially the most valuable player award in soccer. And this was due to his spectacular play in the World Cup, where he led the tournament in goals, and for his club play for FC Barcelona in 1994. Overall, this World Cup run holds lots of significance to the Bulgarian people to this day. And my family has told me stories of how people were dancing in the streets and hugging complete random strangers because they were so happy after Bulgaria's shock win over Germany and Germany's defeat, and how it led to a lot of national pride since they had just beaten the reigning world champions. It showed that Bulgaria was a country that never gives up despite its small size and will always fight to the end. And I hope I will be able to see a run like this in my lifetime as well. And remember to never count the small countries out.